Good morning. Today we're playing around with this thing, the giant squid. The most interesting, probably the coolest looking mod I have ever seen for a Bitaxe in my entire life. Look, it's got a squid on the top. It's got a squid on the back. It says giant squid on the side, and it looks very squid-like. It's got these tentacles hanging off of it. It's got that squid body. I can definitely see how he came up with the name here. So this thing is super cool. This is a creation from John over at Bitaxe and Chill. Now, I have been making parts and accessories lately for Bitaxes and Nerd Q axes. This is not my design. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. However, when I saw this thing, I got excited about it, and I had to get my hands on one and test it out. I'm a big fan of things that combine both form and function, and like a really nice car or motorcycle, obviously this achieves a goal, but it looks very beautiful and interesting while doing it. This thing has these crazy ducts all over it. It's got this main one that cools the heatsink. It's got this one that sweeps over the top that cools the top of the board. And then this bottom portion is a duct as well that cools the back of the board. So here's the plan for today with the squid. What we're going to do is we're going to pop the gamma back off and we're going to put it back in stock configuration. And we're going to gather some baseline numbers, do some testing. Then, once we've done that, we're going to put it back on the squid, and we're going to compare how this thing performs, or how this thing performs rather, with a squid compared to stock configuration. Also, we're going to see how loud this thing is. One of the things John said is that this is very quiet. A gamma as it comes, it's got this little noisy fan on it, and it's very loud. It's even louder than a Nerd QX++ with a giant 120. So, if we can quiet this thing down, cool it down, and look cool while we're doing it, I think this thing will be a huge success. So I've been excited to get my hands on one of these things. John actually sent me one and it got caught up in customs. And so while we're sorting that whole thing out, he sent me the STL file and I printed one out last night and I am just blown away. It's so cool. Look at all the squids. It's very neat. It is very neat. So anyway, enough rambling. Let's pop this thing off. Let's do some tests and let's see how the giant squid performs. Okay, so for test number one, we will test it in bone stock configuration from Solo Satoshi. Now this one is bone stock with a few exceptions. Number one, when you buy this thing, the stand is actually orange, and I painted mine black. Number two, I added these heat sinks here. Now the one on the left is completely useless. This is actually the Wi-Fi module, and it doesn't even get hot. I just happened to have one that was pretty much the perfect size, so I stuck it on there. I couldn't resist. This one over here, though, I think actually does do something, and so that's why it's there. But other than that, this one is stock. Now, this one comes from Solo Satoshi with a Dark Horse heatsink upgrade. That's this piece right here. And it looks really cool, and I think it does a really nice job of keeping this little gadget nice and cool while it mines away. So we'll test this out, we'll get some numbers, and then we will go from there. Okay, so for test number one, I have this thing cranked up as high as the firmware will allow me to go. So our frequency is 625. And our core voltage right now is at 1250. Now, taking a look at the dashboard here, our current hash rate is 1.55 terahashes per second, so terahash and a half. And our ASIC temperature is 61.3 degrees. Our voltage regulator temperature is 62 degrees, and our power consumption currently is just under 26 watts at 25.9 degrees. And in case anyone wonders or cares, our fan speed is 100%. At 7,190 RPMs. Now, it's a tiny little fan, and it spins really fast, and that's why it's noisy. So that's one of the things I'm hoping to see about the giant squid. Hopefully it just quiets down the whole gamma situation a little bit, but we'll find out shortly there. So hash rate's creeping up a little bit. We're at 1.6 now, and yeah, let's say 61.5 ASIC and 62 on the VRs. That's creeping up a little bit. Let's just say 62 across the board. So test number one, stock configuration, 62 ASIC, 62 VR, approximately. So let's take this thing apart, let's attach it to the squid, and let's see how the squid compares. Okay, so the squid is currently squidding away. It is doing its thing, and it is very quiet. In fact, I can't hear it at all over the noise of this thing right next to it. It is practically silent. So, looks cool, it's doing its thing. Let's check out the numbers. Okay, so this is test number two with the giant squid attached. Still the same frequency, 625. Our core voltage is still 1250. Let's take a look at the numbers. So current hash rate is 1.18 terahashes a second. That'll creep up. It goes from about 1.2 to 1.5, so pretty normal. Our current ASIC temperature is 65 degrees, which is actually a few degrees warmer than we saw in stock configuration. We were at 62 stock, we're now at 63 with ASIC, so 3-degree temperature difference there. Our VREG temperature is now 57 degrees, so a 5-degree decrease there. So we're 5 degrees cooler with the Squid on the VREGs. Now this thing is at 100% fan speed, 1456, and that is important to note here. Here's my theory with this. I have a Noctua NFF12 5-volt fan attached to the Giant Squid. There are actually two variants of this fan. There's a 1500 RPM variant and a 1900 RPM variant. Now I got the 1500 RPM variant because I'm using the stock power supply. I'm not sure about this, but I think if you're going to use that 1900 RPM variant, you're going to need to upgrade to like a Meanwell LRS 50 upgraded power supply. So you got a little bit more juice. Because remember, stock configuration comes with this tiny little fan, and now all of a sudden you want to spin this much larger fan very fast. So, but my theory here is that the 1500 RPM fan, it just doesn't have enough balls to it. And so, you know, I think if you had that extra 400 RPM, you would really benefit from that, and you would get all of the things that the Giant Squid has to offer. Now, keep in mind, we're only a few degrees cooler here. Again, we're 6 degrees cooler on the VRs, and we're only 3.9 degrees hotter as far as the ASICs go. So it's not a make or break deal. And I will say this, it is extremely quiet. It is silent. I cannot hear this thing at all. So there's definitely a benefit to this thing. I just think to get the most out of this design, you really need that 1900 RPM fan. So here's what I'm going to do, because I have an idea. So I don't have a 1900 RPM fan available in a way, but I also do, because what I have is I have a bunch of the 3000 RPM 12 volt models. So what I'm going to do is run a splitter off of my NerdQX++. I'm going to plug in the 3000 RPM fan and attach it to the Squid, and then I'm going to turn it to exactly 1900 RPMs. That'll let me know exactly what I would be getting if I were running a 1900 RPM fan on the Squid. So for test number 3, I'm going to rip some fans apart. I'm going to connect a splitter to the NerdQX++. I'm going to adjust the settings so the fan is spinning exactly 1900 RPMs. We'll attach it to the Squid, and we will see how much of a gain, how much of a performance increase you would get from that extra 400 RPMs. So stay tuned while I get my screwdriver out and do some turning and some twisting and some fan pulling. And we'll be back here in just a second with a 1900 RPM fan to test my theory. Okay, so this looks cool. We have a 3000 on there now. So let's see if my little theory here is correct. Let's see if that extra 400 RPMs allows us to get the full benefit from the Giant Squid design. It does look cool though. I like the black on black on black there. So let's dial it in and see what happens. Okay, so this is test number 3. We got the fan all attached, we dialed in the speed. We're currently spinning at 1895 RPMs. Now let's see if that extra 400 RPMs makes a difference. Let's check out how the Gamma is performing right now. So our current hash rate is 1.38 terahashes per second. Our ASIC temperature is now 58.9 degrees. And our voltage regulator temperature is 50 degrees. You gotta be kidding me. So we have an 11 degree decrease, 11 degrees cooler with the Giant Squid as far as the VREGs, and a few degrees cooler as far as the ASICs go. But you really need that 1900 RPM variant. It makes all the difference in the world for this thing. So that's pretty much the deal. You know, I love tests like this because you reveal all sorts of exciting stuff. And in this particular case, this confirmed everything that I thought previously, which was that just that extra 400 RPMs, that little extra boost in speed would just allow a little bit more flow through the Squid to the device and all of its ducts and all that stuff to really maximize the cooling power for this thing. So I have a couple of options now. I've got a little bit of a conundrum because I have to decide what I want to do. Now, I can either put the old fan back on and run it at 1500 and just dial it back and leave it be, and that's just fine. Or I can borrow from the NerdQX++ because it lives right next door to the Gamma and just use a splitter. I've got plenty of power thanks to the LRS 350 and do it that way. Now, I don't want to do that, and here is why. With the Nerd QX++, I turn all of my miners, including the Nerd QX++, down at night. I just let them all run on default settings, or as far as the Avalon Q goes, I put it on eco mode. It just gives everything a little bit of a break. During the day, I crank it up. Now, with the Nerd QX++, I'm gonna dial it up to, overclock it, and all of a sudden, I'm getting, 6.5 terahashes a second, but I really need that 90 to 100% fan speed to run nice and cool. So, what I don't want to have is two 120s running at 90%. And this doesn't actually need to run at 90 or 100% as far as the gamma goes. However, because we're screwing around here today and we're testing things out, let's go ahead and crank this thing up to 100 and let's see what happens. Okay, it sounds like a windstorm in here because remember, the Nerd QX++ is powering both fans at this point and it controls both of them simultaneously. So if I turn one fan up to 100, they both go up to 100. So the fan speed right now is 2,904 and let's see what happens to the gamma. Oh, it's going way down, baby. It's going way down. The ASIC temperature is now 54 degrees and dropping. The voltage regulator temperature is 47 and it just continues. Now it's 44 for the ASICs. It just continues to drop down. So the more 53 degrees. Well, I'm not going to report every time it dips. You can just watch it. It's the number there on the your far right there. You can check the temperature there to see what's going on. But the more airflow through this thing, the better. So I don't know. I think in this particular case, I think with the Giant Squid, you really need to have a 1900 or better fan. You just do. There are some different options there. You can always, upgrade your power supply. You can also plug one of these fans into a USB outlet so you don't have to worry about powering the fan itself off the device. Although, you run into some issues there because I think if you plug it into a USB device, unless you have a speed controller, it just runs at 100% all the time. So, if you get on Amazon or a lot of other places, you can buy a USB 4-pin connector, and you can also buy like an inline speed controller. It probably costs you $20 in total, United States dollars. And then you can adjust the fan speed and just run it off of your laptop or your computer or whatever the case. And you don't have to worry about the power supply to the device itself. So yeah, here's what's going on with a 3000 RPM fan. 52 degrees on the ASICs. That is 9 degrees cooler. But what's astonishing here is look at the VREG temperature. I mean, that is out of this world. 18 degrees cooler with 3000 RPM fan blasting air through this thing. So that's pretty exciting, folks. That is pretty exciting. So that concludes my test for today. You got to have the 1900 RPM fan. Unless you want to run the thing at default settings and you just don't care. The one thing that's really missing from this test is I do need to have that 1900 RPM 5-volt fan. And I need to see if I can run it off the device with a stock power supply because that's what's really going to make or break this thing. Had I had a 1900 RPM fan in the first place, this test would have gone really well. It would have made the Squid look great. And I think, again, that's an ideal solution for the Squid. I don't think the 1500 is enough. Unfortunately, we only had the 1500, so we were off to a little bit of a rough start with those little higher temperatures that we saw initially, but no big deal. Overall, I love the Squid. I think it's really cool. If you're interested in one, you can buy either the print file or you can buy the whole kit from John. I will include a link in the description below. So that's pretty much it. Again, always love to test this stuff. Always fun to see what happens when we look at the real numbers and put these things through their paces. But overall, again, I think John did a really great job with these. I think you just need a little extra boost from the fans, and you are good to go. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. You can always send me a message on Instagram if you want. And that's all I got for today, folks. Have a fantastic day.